We're at an old fort, and we're here to find a cache and go on a ghost walk. That next on Geocaching with Simrebel. So we're in Fort Erie, at Old Fort Erie. We're here to try to find a geocache. Well, we're here to go on the ghost walk, but what's also here is a geocache, so we're gonna check it out. Old Fort Erie sits in Fort Erie at the end of Lake Erie, across the river, the Niagara River, from Buffalo. The original fort was built in 1764 and located on the river's edge below the fort that stands today. For decades, the Fort Erie served as a supply depot for the ports for ships transporting merchandise, troops, and passengers to the upper Great Lakes. During the American Revolution, 1775 to 1783, the fort was used as a supply base for British troops, Loyalists, Rangers, and Six Nations warriors. After the War of 1812, in 1866, the Brigade of Fenians used the ruins of Old Fort Erie as a base for one of their raids into Canada. Their raids encouraged the move towards Confederation, and Canada became a nation in 1867. An old cannon. Lots of paths here. Kind of a unique spot. Walls. We gotta snake our way around to get the cache. I'm actually parked over top of that broom there. Could have walked over it, but nope. Like the long way around. Found the cache in the jungle. Alright, so found a cache. Got a tour, inside tour with one of the guys that worked here, and he was telling me a bunch of information about the old fort. Over there they actually found the remnants of the earlier fort, and there's going to be an archaeological dig here. So we've got to wait around for an hour or so before the building's open, and then we're going on the night haunted tour next. So, memorial here. There's 150 soldiers buried underneath this tomb. Checking out the museum. Beaver. Armor.
Some 300 men lay roasted, mangled, burned, wounded, black, hideous.
Is this?
Old Fort Erie and our Halloween house tours. Follow me through here. Rules and gore and Halloween traditions under perfect atmosphere. However, However, before we make our way in, we do have a few small ground. Simple job. We need to introduce ourselves. I need you to make your way up to the gate, knock 3 times, nice and loud. We'll ask you for a password or challenge you. Just say porcupine. Nice. Now, of course, I'm hoping everyone here is just as invested in this time of year as I am. Before we continue on, we should go over exactly where this time of year comes from, what it means, and what Halloween actually is. You might be surprised to learn just how old it is. Although many of the modern traditions we have are of the Halloween holiday, but of course we're not in Europe. Instead, we're on the traditional lands of Praga and the neutrals, and Halloween is more of a vibe and a feeling than it is strict traditions and history. So, first supernatural tale, we have the oldest of any of them, going back to the beginning of the world. In the beginning of the world, there were 2 suns. These 2 sons, as you might expect, had a rather tumultuous relationship. The first of them, born first and foremost, was handsome, strong, strapping, and went about creating much.
Officers.
His name is well known to us, Captain Nathaniel Kingsley, a young British officer in his early 20s in 1811 when he began his service in the King's 8th Regiment here in Upper Canada. Serving had a habit of purging their communities and cleansing them for the new year by executing criminals in a particular way, burning them in a fire, a wicker man, popularized by a certain film in the 1970s that would supposedly help to remove the sin from their communities and give them good fortune for the coming year. Formal stuff on tonight's guided tour in our picture. Normally one of my favorite and the coziest parts of the tour, but this isn't any given tour. Instead, this is the Halloween tour, so we'll talk here a little bit about some of the stories related to the fighting here. I promised you a little bit of gore, didn't I?
Alright, so that's our trip to Old Fort Erie. Did the ghost walk and found the cache there. We left right after the tour. Annette wasn't feeling well, and we had a 2-hour drive to come home, so decided to leave. Could have stuck around and went in more of the buildings there and checked it out, and they had a fire burning of Guy Fawkes afterwards and fireworks, but we decided to make a beeline to come home. 2 hours, so it was a nice little tour around the old fort. So cache later, cache on the trails.